What's happening, everyone? I feel like I'm in the wrong show for a second. Like this, this is hey, when the last time we recorded, we've been making some jokes on this. I think the last time we recorded, Google was still in the garage creating YouTube.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I had just sold stock in Apple for $20.
yeah.
So yeah, it's been a minute.
We were 8 years ahead of the housing bubble. We were still in the .com bubble the last time that this
Yes.
show aired. Yeah. So, hey, we're back. We're finally caught back up, and we've had some travel. Jamie's had some things with work and cleaning up the
Mhm.
end of the year, and with school and all that kind of stuff. And then we've had different things happen, and of course we got to recognize, and I know hopefully enough time has passed now where I can at least mention it, RIP to Buffy. It's always tough. That's sincere, by the way. No, we make a lot of smart aleck jokes on this thing, but Buffy was a heck of a pup, and it's always hard to lose a companion. So, yeah, I know it's tough for you and Diana. So, thoughts have been with you on that one, man. It's never easy.
I appreciate that, my friend. Buffy was an awesome dog. She lived a long life, 14 years, and RIP for sure. And a big shout out to Town and Country Animal Hospital for doing everything the right way with all of that. And Chad, some exciting news in about 3 weeks. We're going to welcome little Buddy Golliver into the family.
Buddy, all
Yeah,
right.
little Buddy. Ellie's been missing having a companion. So we're going to bring little Buddy Golliver in, full blooded Chihuahua, and Buffy's irreplaceable. But we're looking forward to Buffy joining the mix here as our
Now,
next
now,
little pup.
now, Buddy isn't a Craigslist situation.
No,
I,
Buddy. Well, he hasn't come here yet. Buffy had only been here a couple of weeks. I think when Dinah was Craigslist and Buffy. But no, Buddy, I think he's going to be good to go. And by the way, speaking of dogs joining the family, congratulations to you guys. The Andersons have a new family member as well.
we do. We do. Little lady, Miss Lady, she's been roaming the halls and peeing on beds and
That's
barking at 5 a.m. And
what they
uh,
do.
but she's also a little cuddler, so she's great. Uh, Ivy is warming up to her. Ivy went from a sister to two other dogs to an only child for about 8 months, to now a big sister. And it's Ivy is actually, because we used or got Lady from the exact same breeder up in northern Michigan. Sounds like a Kid Rock song. Ivy is
So Lady's a Yankee, is what you're
yeah,
trying to say. Yeah.
northern Midwest. Okay, so
Okay.
yeah,
Upper
not a,
Peninsula.
yeah, the
Yeah.
UP.
Yes.
The Ivy is actually Lady's aunt, like truly,
Oh, cool.
Lady's aunt. So we say sister because when it's dogs, it's kind of weird and awkward. Plus, I'm from Alabama, so who knows? Maybe it's close. Uh,
We had a dog named Uncle Dad one time. Yeah.
Oh, it's great. All right. So today, and I've done this on a couple of other videos, but I'm not naive. You guys don't watch every video I do. So Jamie and I are going to hit up on some of these behavioral type things with everybody and house buying and watching interest rates. Zach and I did this same topic. I've done this solo as well. But here's the thing, and that we talked about is when it comes down to it, buying a house, obviously the biggest purchase. We've talked about that on this show. It's the biggest purchase you're ever going to make. And in the last couple of years, rates have gone up, and they're much higher now, as we all know, than they were during COVID. So what we've been seeing is a lot of forecasts, because when rates shot up, everybody said, "Oh, I'm getting on the sideline. I'm out for a little while. I'm gonna hang on the sidelines." Rates were just 3. I'm not buying a house at 5.5%. Well, how about 6%, sir? Nope, not buying at 10. How about 6.5? Nope. How about 7? Because that's about where they are now. High 6s, low 7s, depending on who you are, what your credit profile looks like, and your income and all that kind of stuff. The peak was we were in the high 7s, low 8s. But Jamie, you see this, or I'm assuming you do. people see these forecasts and the news spreads like, oh, rates are going to get cut this year. Oh, in a year, rates are going to be back down where they were. Oh, don't worry. You know, we're going to get back to where they were. This is just temporary. Now we're kind of 2 years into this, and inflation is still not under control. Economic data, you know, is still keeping rates higher. Feds are nervous about cutting rates. They may not cut them at all this entire year. So when you're seeing that kind of stuff, and maybe people talk to you or say something to you, or you just have the discussion, or you hear stuff, you know, on the news or the radio or whatever. But have you noticed, like, is the overall consensus just in general public been, hey, rates are what they are? Or is it still, I'm not doing anything, these rates are out of control? Like, what's been the vibe and the message and the thought on some of these?
Yeah, I've talked to a lot of people who were either looking to buy or who ended up buying around the time that the rates started to go up. And it seemed like the activity went from just kind of a whirlwind of buy, I guess sell would be the other end of that, to people kind of just parking it and sitting on the sidelines waiting for something to change. Or maybe when you have had some fluctuations in the rates, maybe a drop a little bit even, they kind of react in a knee-jerk fashion. So I think there's definitely more caution now on the other side of it, or the other end of the spectrum, to where, and Chad, you know this is, you know, for sure, when the rates were as low as they were, man, it seemed like a house, they wouldn't even be nailing the for sale sign into the yard before they had to put up a sold sign or, you know, pending sign up. But I think there's been a lot more caution and just waiting to see how things work out with the rates being where they are. But I also have talked to some people who are looking to strike if they do see a dip in it. Yeah. And I think, you know, we talked a little bit before we went on air about the kind of the human psyche with all of that, kind of a knee-jerk reaction, thinking that that's maybe as good as it's going to be if they're ready to move.
Yeah. And what's interesting is we get these forecasts, right? Like Fannie Mae comes out and says, hey, we think in Q3 of this year and Q4 of this year and Q1 of next year. And they'll do it all the way through, you know, they'll do like 6-quarter forecasts. So they'll take you through, you know, the end of 2025. And just a couple of months ago, it was, oh, look at this. In 17 months, we're going to be at 5.9%, according to Fannie Mae. And everybody's like, amazing. You better buy a house now, because when it's 5.9, everybody's going to want to buy a house, and everybody's going to jump in, and everybody's going to knee jerk. And now the most recent one is it's going to be 7 for the rest of this year, and it's going to be 6.6 as a best case rate by the end of next year. So now all of a sudden things have gone back to, whoa, pump the brakes again. And it's just funny that people are, you know, taking a look at these forecasts and they're going, I'm planning my house buying today based on the good or the bad that's being forecasted 18 months from now. However, that forecast has already been revised twice in the last 2 forecasts that were released. So I don't know, like, what makes people, you did some psychology, some social science. You're a smarter guy than I am. I'm just a nerd with a calculator. So if you watch that and like, why is human behavior that way? Like, why is it so hard for humans to be proactive on this kind of stuff? And is it FOMO? Like, that's one thing we haven't brought up is FOMO in these other videos. Like,
well, FOMO. Okay.
Yeah, FOMO. FOMO.
Making sure we didn't.
FOMO. Yeah. Thanks. FOMO.
Making sure we weren't in. Okay, interchange. Yeah, fear of missing out.
So is it FOMO? Because if it's FOMO, then you're in a spot where, okay, that's just almost like a mental disease, right? Like, it's just a society problem, because you're worried that if you don't do something when it's going down, you're going to miss out and you're going to look like an idiot. But then if you do something while it's going up, then you still look like an idiot because you're the one that ended up with the higher rate. I don't know. I'm spitballing, more asking here, but what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's a little bit of missing out, that fear of missing out, but I also think that today we are kind of overall as a society, we're more of a wanting things now and a little less hard to be patient and to wait on things and maybe be proactive by actually waiting when we need to. That's what I think it is. I think we're let's jump on it now while the action's hot. And I really think, and you can speak to this, I think that's where you see a lot of chain reaction events, because one person or a few people do it, and then word kind of spreads like wildfire. I'm sure that happens in these situations where it's almost like a domino effect, where people are doing things like that. But I think it's a fear of missing out. But I also do believe it's kind of we're a right now type of society in a lot of regards. We want things now. And I also think, not to get too analytical here. Well, maybe I will get.
I like analytics, man. You know,
well, let's
I love
do
analytics.
It.
Let's do
it.
Do it. Because I got one more thing I'm going to throw at you after this thought.
Almost like a impending doom type scenario, or a dread, where it's like it's like, let's wait for the other shoe to drop. Almost like a Chicken Little scenario here. I do think that's part of it. I also think that a lot of people who either casually or religiously follow these forecasts about the rates don't quite understand. And I'm right there with them. I'm not judging. I'm just stating what I think is the truth. Don't quite know what all goes into these factors. So much like a weather forecast, we're going to rely on these forecasts. Just like the weather, it may change 2 or 3 times within the same week, sometimes the same day, because we don't know. And we're going to rely on the ones that we think we know. So I think that's where being more informed about what all goes into that can help people even make more informed decisions, because it's the better that they understand it.
Yeah. I can see that. I knew you were going to go weather forecast at some point.
I had to go weather forecast.
All that stuff.
Listen, I do fancy myself an amateur meteorologist.
So. Yeah, I know. You just hung out with James Spann at some point recently.
James Spann, the man, came to Madison Elementary School in March. And Chad, I know I'm getting dating references here, and I don't even remember the Beatles. I'm not that old, but it's like Elvis came to town, or like, man, Santa Claus is coming to town. Oh, we almost shut down the whole city for James Spann. We had people wanting to get in, like, hey, Jamie, can you get in to see Spann? No dice. Sorry, we got seating capacity.
Was that you outside on the corner scalping tickets and a hat and a mustache?
Or people would claim it's me, but I was actually working the door as the bouncer for people who tried to get in. So we had a velvet rope there and everything. So making sure. But that James Spann was awesome. He was great with the kids, and weather's fascinating, and it's unpredictable, just like these rates are sometimes. And
it is. And all right, so the last thing I mentioned, I want to bring this up to you. If we're talking about interest rates and people's behavior around them. So this is where I struggle. I feel like the constant message, we've at least tried to deliver this message, is that actual data has shown that even through higher interest rates, housing prices have increased 6.6% year over year.
Wow.
Even with higher rates, 6.6%. We also still have an inventory problem. And if people are buying houses still and house prices are still going up at that clip with higher rates, common sense would tell you lower rates could accelerate that appreciation and those values, correct? Like that would just make them go up.
Yeah.
So if I was to tell you that, then I guess where I struggle to understand, so enlighten me, psychological czar. If I tell you, hey, look, no matter what the rates do, house prices are still going up over 6% year over year right now, even with higher interest rates. So you need to ditch the forecast of the rates and the models. And if you want to buy, and if you can afford to buy at today's rates, you probably should just go ahead and jump on it at this point. I tell you all that backed by actual data, yet people still base their behaviors off of the forecast of the interest rate. Why? I'm proving to you that it's getting more expensive to wait. Why does someone still wait? I don't understand that. So I'm hoping you can explain it.
Well, that's surprising to me, that data you just shared with me, that the house prices continue to go up. So now, having just learned this, and this is learning in the moment. You're actually the wise one here. You're the Jedi. I'm the Padawan, so to speak, because that tells me immediately I don't need to worry so much about the rate. I need to be proactive and do it when it's best for my situation. And I think anybody would. That's great information. That makes sense to me. And you just explained it in a very logical, easy to understand and follow way.
But I think I set all that up, and I think I know part of the answer. So I was kind of teeing myself up a little bit there. Now, I got to make myself look good every now and then. It's hard.
Tee it up.
So as Americans, a lot of times we don't focus on the actual debt. We focus on the payment. And so what I mean by that is people don't look at, if I wait another year, the $400,000 house is going to cost $425 because it's a little over a 6% appreciation year over year. They look at it and go, oh, but I'm just going to wait until the $425 because I hope that rates come down in that forecast, and therefore my payment's going to end up being better or similar, but I have the lower rate, even though you just spent $25,000 more on the house. And I think that happens a lot with cars. I used to be a victim of that. I was a terrible, terrible decision maker back in my early 20s when it comes to cars, because I would go find a car that I loved and I thought it was cool. And I thought, oh yeah, this is a great one right here. And then I look at it and go, oh yeah, just stretch that out to 84 months. Yeah, that'll get the payment down where I want. So instead of thinking, okay, I just spent how many dollars on a car, I was more focused on what's the payment. So the payment gets sold to me. I leave the overall debt to the side, and you just worry about, oh, I can afford that in the monthly payment. And it's really a bad way to look at things. And so I think that's part of it. Just honestly, I think, people look at the payment today and they'd rather wait and hope it gets lower. But then by waiting, it's gone up another $25,000 without the guarantee that the rate's going to be lower, which will bring your payment back down to maybe even the exact same spot you were, just barely less, but you just paid $25,000 more for the house. I don't know. I think that has something to do with it, though, and plays into it. And it's just tough.
Let me ask you this. Do you think the way that rates were lower a few years ago, everybody's just waiting for that to come around again? Kind of tying in that fear of missing out with, if we just wait, they're going to get down there again, because maybe they heard about other people being successful.
Well, look.
Low. I mean, I wonder if that's part of the nature of it. Come on, guys. It's going to come around again.
Well, if they're thinking that, then the $400,000 house is going to cost $800,000 by the time that gets back here. Okay. If rates get back down to 2.5% on a 30-year fix, the country's in the 12th circle of hell, because think of what had to happen for that.
Yeah.
You had to have COVID, basically. That's really what it was. You had to have a pandemic, a global pandemic, to get that low.
COVID, Dodgers winning the World Series. It was a double whammy.
And the Cubs making the playoffs. If you go back to 2011, 12, 30-year fix, they were in the low threes to mid threes at that point. And that's what we thought was, oh my God, I can't believe a 30 years below 4%. And it was in the threes. And what were we coming off of there? We were coming off the Great Recession.
Yeah, crash.
We're talking about a housing crash and a recession greater than anything ever since 1929 to 35, somewhere in that window.
Good job.
About 6 years. Yeah. So I paid attention a little in history. So I think that's really it, is that if you're waiting on once in a lifetime type events, then that's the biggest gamble you've ever taken. you're literally saying I'm pushing in my chips on my financial future and potential to build wealth based on once in a lifetime situations.
Because, you know, Chad, 1 year turns into 5 years, turns into 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
And those house prices keep going up, as you explained earlier.
Right. Now, don't get me wrong. There's going to be a year or 2 years or 3 years where the housing dips or it flatlines. That's normal. Okay. It can't always go this way. It can't all like it's this. Yeah. So that will happen from time to time. But real estate historically, when you buy versus when you sell, more times than not, a lot more times than not, you're going to come out ahead. So the thing too is we're still so low on inventory. I told somebody else this today. Last thought is that quit thinking this is 2008. I'm so sick of hearing about this as 2008. I really am, because the average American, or Americans in general, they have more equity in their house than ever before in the history of this country. So guess what? That means that they're sitting there just on stockpiles of money. Okay. That's why we have an inventory problem. But they're not selling and they have low interest rates. The thing is, if rates come down, then you're going to have all these people want to re-enter the market. When they re-enter the market, because there's only two ways to get your equity, it's either sell your house or refinance your house. And by doing that, you give up your interest rate. So once rates come down, they give up the rate. They take a 5.5 rate and they want to buy something. Great. So now there's a house for sale, but you now also have another buyer in the market. And so you're going to run this until enough new inventory is built in order to catch up on a lot of this stuff. So there was a stat a couple of years ago, I forget the exact year, but it was basically that the U.S. economy and home builders could build new construction at a record pace year over year for 5 consecutive years, and still we would be short as a country on housing inventory.
Wow.
That is how drastic the Great Recession was in 07, 8, and 9. And that coming out of that, there were basically no home builders left. And so they couldn't build enough inventory from 2010 to like 15 to satisfy the need for all these people today who want to buy houses.
Yeah, it's a constant game of catch up.
Yeah. You're trying to play catch up. And then in the meantime, you've still had record low rates. I know they're higher today, but they're still lower or on average today compared to historic numbers. So it's still not, tugging one way or the other. You're still left short on the inventory scale, and it's still a problem. So anyway, I thought that was interesting, just human behavior in general, and that some of the signs are there, but people still have a hard time pulling the trigger, which I get. It can be scary, but at the same time, just look at the data, make an educated decision, reach out to one of us, and we can go over your personal situation for you as well. Try to
knowledge is power. I've learned a lot from this myself tonight. I love the pairing information with being able to talk to people about their specific situations is what it's all about. It's good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, all right. I'm glad we got back on here. Actually reunited here for an episode. So we'll get back. These will be weekly, once again. So we enjoy these. Hope you guys do as well. Hope it's something you learn from. Anyway, enjoy hanging out. Good to see you again. Glad you're doing well.
So, appreciate y'all joining in with us, guys.
Yeah. So everybody have a good night, good week, good weekend. Whenever you may be watching this, take care. We'll be back next week with another episode. Have a good one.